Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 55 of the NordCast. It is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. I'm your host here, NordCast7, joined with Carter. How are we doing today, Mr. Rochelle?
Doing all right, honestly. Not a whole heck of a lot has been going on, so.
Oh, that's fun. And we got Illinois State University, Jack Polko here. How are we doing today, Jack?
Doing good.
Congratulations on committing.
Thank you.
We now have another NordCast member going to college. I'm actually
Yes,
the
sir.
youngest one, coincidentally enough. But yeah, so we are in the middle of the second round, so we're just going to go straight into it here. There have been 4 series that have been going on. We previewed the second round last episode. I know there were series that were going on, but there's definitely been a lot of change since then overall. So we're going to start off with what I would say is the most controversial one. It's the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers. So currently the Florida Panthers have a 3-2 series lead on the Boston Bruins. It was 3-1, but last night Boston won Game 5. So before we get into the things that I want to talk about that are in regards to this series, I just want to say, are you guys surprised by these results, and does this affect your prediction at all? Start off with Carter, because why not?
Like, in all the series, or just the Boston?
Just Boston, Florida.
Just the Boston, Florida one? I mean, I feel like I kind of thought that this was going to be a good series. Florida looked really good, so I thought that maybe they would have been able to take care of it on home ice. But they dominated Boston on home ice the last 2 games. Well, I wouldn't say dominated, but being able to make a 2-goal comeback in Game 4, I think it was, and then I think that they won by a goal or 2. Maybe that was their big game where they won. I can't remember, but they were able to defeat them back-to-back times on home ice in the playoffs, especially in TD Garden. That's hard to do. So as a Florida fan, I wouldn't start to get worried. I think if you drop that one and you got to go back to Florida, I think you should still feel confident, especially with home ice advantage. But if Boston gets on a roll, it's hard to stop them. Toronto, I feel like, did a good job of stopping Boston when they were on the roll. But I really think that it's going to come down to that Game 7. I hope that Florida wins it in 6, but it's hard to tell with Boston in TD.
Yeah, my prediction is Florida in 6. That was my overall prediction. I didn't see Boston beating Florida. What about you, Jack? Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, well, obviously Boston's my cup champ, so my perfect bracket is kind of in jeopardy right now. But yeah, it was a good job by Boston to win last night. I was keeping an eye on that game pretty close. I felt like a Bruins fan. I'm not, but I felt like one. But yeah, it should be 3-2 Boston. I mean, they should not have blown that 2-0 lead. That was bad. Just stupid penalties. And honestly, I put the Florida power play up there with Edmonton. I think they're definitely top 3 in the league. And yeah, Boston just kind of shot themselves in the foot. And they should most definitely be up 3-2 in this series. I do think they have a chance to bring it to 7, but I think Florida's going to come out firing. Do they play tomorrow, or is it? I think it's 2 days off.
They play on Friday. It's weird the schedule is. Tomorrow the Rangers play the Hurricanes. It's weird the way the schedule has been. But there's some calls that I want to talk about, because in Game 4 there was a lot of controversy in regards to a couple of plays. So right now what I'm sending to you guys, if it's going to let me send it, is the Sam Bennett play on Brad Marchand. So originally, in what I believe is Game 4, this occurred where Bennett threw the puck into what I think was the Bruins zone and hits Marchand from behind. Marchand goes down. But this angle, from the angles that we saw at first, it didn't look that bad. It didn't look like it was intentional. Then we see this angle, or this was from Game 3, sorry, it says it on the thing. But the angle that we're seeing right now that I'm showing you guys, we got on Sunday. We got after the game occurred. So, and you could tell in that play that Sam Bennett clearly put a push on Marchand. Whether it was a strong push or a weak push, there's a push there. So, I understand Bruins fans for being mad at that specifically, but I don't think that, to be honest with you, that's not the reason why they're losing this series currently. The second one that I'm sending you guys now is the one that I'm most angry about, that people are most mad about. And the funny thing is, too, they both involve Sam Bennett. So I'm showing you guys the goal here that tied the game in Game 4, where Sam Bennett pushes Charlie Coyle into Jeremy Swayman. The puck goes right to Sam Bennett. Bennett tucks it in on an open net, and Florida obviously ties it 2-2. Listen, here's my issue with this call. I look at it and I see, Bennett pushes Coyle into Swayman, but to me, it doesn't look like that strong of a push. When you look at it again, it doesn't look like a push that is like full force. If there's even a little bit more oomph to that, you can make the argument that it's goalie interference. But I'm looking at that call, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, honestly, it looks like a normal net battle. I understand maybe Bennett's intent was to put him into Swayman, but then again, that's not enough to really say that, they would have, that would have been a no-goal call. I honestly think that when you look at the replay and look at the angle, I don't think Swayman's getting across to make that save anyways, even if Quill doesn't get pushed into him. So that's my problem there. He's basically spread out on the ground, so there's no way, unless if he goes like this and makes a diving save like this, there's no way he's getting over to make that save. So that's how I look at that. But first off, before I get more into it, what are your guys' thoughts? First off, let's start off with the first one involving the Bennett check to Marchand. Do you guys think that is a clean call or not?
Yeah, he definitely could have pushed him harder, and that would have made it a dirty play to me. But it's not like he pushed him that hard. I think Marchand's momentum is kind of already taking him that way. Yeah, a hit in the back is always dirty, but it's not that big of a play, and it's the playoffs. Stuff like that's gonna happen, and but yeah. Oh shoot, Dallas just scored.
Oh,
not good. But yeah. Anyways, it's the playoffs. Hits like that are gonna happen. So,
Carter, what do you think?
Like, it's so how I see it is Bennett's bracing for the hit. Clearly, he gets his hands up, he's bracing to be checked, and he's ready to give back. When Marchand comes at him, he's ready to give him a shove back, too. It's just unfortunate the way that he ends up catching him. I don't think Bennett meant... we get it. Bennett plays on the edge. Sure. But it's not... He just catches him in the wrong spot. It's not a malicious intent. He doesn't intend to do that. He's bracing for the hit, and he's giving him a shove. If you watch it, he goes both hands, right? If he just goes with this hand and gets him in the face, I see the argument there. But it's both hands are going. He's bracing to give a shove back, and it's just unfortunate that he catches him in the head. Marchand is also a lot smaller, too, and he kind of tucks down a bit as well, which is allowing him to get hit in the head there. So the momentum of Marchand going into the boards has nothing to do with Sam Bennett. He's bracing for the hit. So there's not a whole heck of a lot that you can really do there. I don't think it was a dirty play by Sam Bennett at all. I think it was just an unfortunate circumstance.
So now that I'm looking at it again, and I slowed it down here a little bit, I don't know if it's going to show up well on screen. Oh, I lost it. So you see Bennett dump the puck in. Marchand's going for the hit. The way that Marchand positions himself is the way, he's going like this. He's kind of turning his back to Bennett, or going to his side a little bit and kind of going like this and bumping his elbow up into him when you pause it and look at it in the frame right before Bennett gets him. And I think I agree with you, Carter. Bennett looks like he's bracing for the hit. So I don't see how that's a dirty play, in my opinion. Now, we'll go to the other call where it's the goal. I already said what I think, but what do you guys think about that? Is that warranted for the goal being called off, or do you think that it's not enough evidence to sustain that?
I think the thing that I look at is what was the call on the ice? And there's no goalie interference call on the ice. So I think there wasn't really enough evidence. Like in baseball, for example, there has to be enough evidence. I think that's the main thing that the umps look at. Is there enough evidence to overturn this? So I think the call on the ice is the favored call no matter what. But yeah, honestly, I don't see that much of a push, and it looks like a good goal to me. So
I think I honestly, if Bennett pushed him with a little more effort, a little more oomph, I think you could definitely make the argument that it's not a good goal. But to be honest, I think that it looks like a normal net battle to me. Carter, what do you think?
So I know that you talked about how you feel that no matter what, even if he was able to make a play on that, he's not making the save, and that's why it shouldn't be goaltender interference. That's not really how goalie interference is really judged. Even if the goalie, like, even if there's any sort of obstruction to the goalie, whether he's making the save or not, any obstruction of the goalie making an effort to make that play, usually should result in goaltender interference. Now, with that being said, Coyle is already heading towards the net there, so his momentum's already taking him that way. If Coyle is just standing in front of the net, not moving, and then there's the Sam Bennett shove, we have ourselves probable goaltender interference. But he's trying to take Sam Bennett out of the play and trying to weasel him out. Sam Bennett's obviously not going to do that, so he tries to check him away. Coyle's in front of him, Bennett stops and then gives him the shot to try and open up and create space. That's what you have to do in playoff hockey, and that's what you do in hockey anyways. You got to create space. You use whatever you can to create an opening, because if the guy's on you, you're not getting your stick down on the ice, and it's just you're not going to be able to make a play on the puck. So he gets Coyle out of the way. Unfortunately, it happens to go, for Coyle's case, it happens to go towards Jeremy Swayman. The puck ends up dropping right in front of Sam Bennett, and he's able to whack it home. I don't see that as being a huge issue when it comes to that. But again, I'm not an expert, but I don't think that should be goaltender interference. I think judging off of what I kind of saw and how they usually call goaltender interference.
Yeah, just to elaborate on what you said at the start, I wasn't saying that was the reason why, like, that shouldn't be a good goal. I was just saying, like, in retrospect, if Coyle wasn't there, I don't think Swayman's making the save anyways. I didn't mean for it to sound like that. That's the reason why it shouldn't be a goal. Coyle, as you said, you're right. He's skating towards Swayman. His momentum's kind of already going there, and Bennett's trying to create space for himself. So I agree with you. Honestly, like, it doesn't even matter. Like, those two calls really don't matter. Boston has been dominated in every single one of these games in this entire series. Even in Game 4 when they were up 2-0, they were dominated in that game. They shouldn't have been up 2-0 in that game at all. And as well as that, too, they look a lot like Toronto right now. And I know Boston fans are not going to want to hear that, but they look a lot like Toronto right now. Because you look at ever since Game 1, they haven't scored any more than 2 goals in a game. You can't win a hockey game with just 2 goals. Game 5. But most of the time, you can't win with just 2 goals. Unless if your goalie's lights out, it's just simply not going to happen. And it feels like, too, a lot of their players have just kind of become ghosts, essentially. A lot of the guys haven't really showed up. That's the biggest thing. We've seen a lot of that in this year's playoffs. So I think if Boston's going to come back in this series, their guys are going to have to show up. So with this in this series, what do you guys think the overall outcome of this series is going to be? Is Florida going to win, or is Boston going to win? I think Florida takes it in 6, in my opinion.
I can't pick a winner. I think it's going to 7 games, honestly, though. I just can't pick a winner. Obviously, I'm going to say Boston, but that's too biased, so.
Well, we'll find out in the next episode. Carter, what do you think?
I agree. I think this is going to 7, but I really do think that Florida's going to be able to pull this one off in 7.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll move into the other Eastern Conference. Second round, we got the New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Currently, the Rangers are leading 3-2 in the series. They were up 3-0. I think we recorded a podcast on the night of Game 3. I think, yeah, because you guys made a bet on who was going to score. But obviously, no, that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So ever since then, the Carolina Hurricanes have won both games. And they've won both games in pretty kind of lopsided fashion. Game 4 was a little bit close, but the Hurricanes still won it. Game 5 was the first game of the entire series that was decided by 2 or more goals. So it's been a close series the whole way through, but it seems like the Rangers are kind of selling here. They were up 3-0 in this series. Now they have a chance. Now there's a possibility that they could be seeing a Game 7 on Saturday in New York. So here's my question to you guys. A first-round reverse sweep has happened 4 times in NHL history. The last time was 10 years ago in 2014. The second time was 2010 with Philly and Boston. And then the last time it happened was over 30 years ago in 1975. So it has been, 4 times. So it's been a long time since we've seen a team do this. So do you guys think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to be able to reverse sweep the New York Rangers? Honestly, I would say if there's any team in this entire playoffs right now that could, it's the Hurricanes. But what do you guys think?
I totally agree with you. And I was talking to my neighbor yesterday. She's a Rangers fan, and man, I'll tell you what, she's very nervous. And yeah, like you said, if there's any team that's going to do it, it's Carolina.
Carter?
I agree. I think that when I've said this before, all it takes in playoffs is to get hot. And if you get hot at the right time, especially if you cool a team off from getting hot, like the Rangers were, 7 straight wins. 7 straight in the playoffs. That does not happen almost ever. That never really happens. You don't see that. Being able to cool them off and having the momentum of taking that last game at home, taking a game in Madison Square Garden, and now you're coming back home to your home crowd. You can't ask for better momentum. I really do think that they got a good chance here, and I think if there is a team that can pull it off, it's going to be this Carolina Hurricanes team, and especially against this New York Rangers team. But they are getting some pieces back. They do get Blake Wheeler back as well, who is coming back from his injury. I think he should be back. He was in a full contact jersey, but we will have to see.
Yeah, as you guys said, I think as we've been saying, I think the team that would do it is the Hurricanes. The Rangers just have seemed to have been ghosts, essentially. You see in Game 5, Jacob Trouba had your only goal. You ain't winning a game when Jacob Trouba is scoring your only goal. No flack to Trouba, but you just simply are not winning a game. Let me go look at Monday here, or let me go look at Game 4 here if I can find it and see who got goals in that one. So you got a goal from Will Cooley in Game 4. You got a goal from Barclay Goudreau, Lafreniere. Yeah, so ever since Game 3, you haven't seen any of the big guys score a goal. Like Panarin hasn't scored, Zibanejad hasn't scored, Kreider hasn't scored. It's looking a lot like 2023. It's looking a lot like that right now. So if the Rangers are going to win Game 6 or Game 7, they're going to have their big guys show up. That's the biggest thing. And if they become ghosts again, I don't know. Maybe you see a change. Like, I honestly, if they blow a 3-0 series lead, I think there could be some huge changes. I don't know if we see anything that's like over the top, but I feel like we could see a major change because it's become pretty clear that this team really does rely on Igor Shesterkin, and that's simply just not going to work. So, yeah, moving into the Western Conference now, we'll start off with Oilers Vancouver. This is a 2-2 series. This has been a great series. This has been a series that I've really enjoyed on all fronts. Last night, the Oilers tied the series with Calvin Pickard in nets. So we'll see where that goes from there. But first off, before we get into some of the calls that have happened, some of the things we can talk about, has your guys' prediction changed, and are you surprised overall with how this series has gone?
Yeah, not really surprised. I think coming in is pretty even. If Demko was playing, I think Vancouver would definitely have an advantage. But yeah, like I said in the previous episodes, I have Vancouver in my finals. I really, really like them. And they've looked good, and Silovs has been playing really well. But yeah, last night, that's a huge win for the Oilers. If they go down 3-1, I don't think they're coming back. So,
yeah. Carter, what do you think?
Honestly, I'm pretty sure I said Edmonton, because I've said for a while that I don't really trust this Vancouver team. They haven't really shown me a reason to really trust them. I've kind of, especially with these goaltending injuries, like their goalie right now, what's his name again? I can't actually remember.
Artur Shilovs.
Yeah.
Shilovs, yeah. Like he's been good. Yeah, he's looked good. But how often are you gonna get top performances from him every night? He's not a proven guy. He's not Thatcher Demko. Yeah. He's not. I don't know who their backup is either. But like, he's not one of your top guys, and it's hard to really win a series without your top goaltender. So, I think this is going to be an upwards battle for the Vancouver Canucks. I think this series could honestly go to 7 as well. I think a lot of these series we're going to see are going to end up going to 7. Yeah, I really like Edmonton.
Yeah, I like this series as well. I like the Oilers. Honestly, this is a series where, like, no matter who wins, I'm not complaining. Like honestly. And altogether, these playoffs have been that same way. When you look at the teams that are currently in it right now, if the Avalanche get eliminated tonight, which we'll get into that in a second, and there's a good chance they will because they're down 2-1 in the second, and of course they just scored.
They're up 2-1, I thought.
They literally
They
just scored on my
Me
screen
too.
as soon as that. Yeah, of course. But if the Avalanche get eliminated tonight, the next team that we saw win a Stanley Cup was 2011, as of right now. So there's a good chance that we'll see a team that hasn't won a cup in at least 13 years. That's good. That's good for the league. I like seeing new teams win cups. So that's why I would like to see Oilers and Canucks, one of those teams, go to the Stanley Cup Finals. So one thing that I sent to you guys in the Instagram group chat, I want you guys to go take a look at that, is the Carson Sussy cross-check to the head on Connor McDavid, cross-check to the face. So Nikita Zadorov was fined $5,000 for, I think, a cross-check from behind, and Sussy was fined for a cross-check was suspended 1 game for the cross-check to the face on Connor McDavid. So first off, I want you guys to watch the play. I sent it on the Instagram. I'm gonna speak my piece first, then I'll go to you guys. Honestly, it's the right call. I think it's the right call to suspend a guy like Sussy this amount of games. Not only because you're protecting McDavid, but this is how concussions happen. Like, I understand you can be like, oh, it's bias for McDavid and this and that. But honestly, that's how concussions happen when you cross-check someone in the face. I can speak from experience because I've been absolutely destroyed from a cross-check in the face and got a concussion. So it's something that has happened to me, and it's something that just needs to be taken out of the game. And seeing that happen, and seeing Sussy get suspended 1 game is honestly, maybe he should get more. I think if it's not the playoffs, he gets 5 or 6 games. I think he could get something similar to what Morgan Riley got on Ridley Gregg. We could see something like that there. But honestly, I look at that. That's a dirty play. And I think if it's not the playoffs, it's more. But since it's the playoffs, it's 1 game. So overall, what do you guys think about that overall cross-check to the head and that call overall?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it should be more than 1 game. And I don't know. McDavid is kind of falling already, so I don't know if he meant to hit him in the face. But yeah, it's still dirty play either way. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Carter.
It's unfortunate for Susie because I think without Zadorov coming in and cross-checking McDavid from behind, we're not hearing anything about this. We're maybe hearing of a fine. We're not hearing a suspension. I don't think he's getting him in the face. So realistically, this is Zadorov's fault. He doesn't cross-check him. They have Susie, and everything's fine. There's maybe a fine that's dished out, but there's not. We're not having a big, huge discussion about this. But I think that's why it was only a game and it wasn't anything more. Because obviously he's not trying to get him up here. He's going for the chest, but it's because he's falling because of an unexpected cross-check from behind. So I feel bad for Susie because obviously he didn't mean to do it. But unfortunately, it's the way it has to happen.
Yep, and this is the only series currently that is tied at 2. So I'm going to ask you guys one last question. Who do you guys think comes out on top in this series? I don't know. I'll let you guys speak first, and then
I'll go Vancouver in 7.
Ooh. Okay.
Edmonton
Edmonton in 7? Okay. So we agree that it's going 7. I got Oilers in 7, though. I think that with Silovs, he's been unbelievable, but I think that honestly, I feel like Edmonton's going to have the upper hand there. If the other players in this team can score. Because I think there's only been 4 players that are on the offense that have scored, like Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman. You got to have more scoring if you want to win. Like, transitioning over to the Stars and Avalanche series, the Dallas Stars have 17 players on this team that have scored at least 1 goal. So that's something you got to keep in mind. And speaking of Dallas, Colorado, we'll go straight to that. The Dallas Stars are up 3-1 on Colorado heading into the second intermission of Game 5. It's currently going on as we speak. It's tied 2-2. So, first off, I want to say, are you guys surprised by the results in this series, and does it affect your prediction?
Yeah, I am actually kind of surprised. Dallas has just looked so good, and I didn't think they matched up well with this Avalanche team, but man, they have proven me wrong. I have Colorado winning in my bracket, but obviously if I could now, I would change it to Dallas. They've just looked so good, and I think they have a real shot at the Cup and coming out of the West.
The perfect bracket's really in jeopardy.
It really is. I need Boston and Colorado to clutch up here.
Yeah. Carter, what about you?
I really like I really like this Stars team. I think that they're realistically they look really, really good against Colorado, and I think the Colorado Stars usually they're a great match for any team, but right now for some reason against this Dallas Stars team they're struggling. So right now against this
Yeah,
Dallas Stars team they're kind of struggling. So Cale Makar has not looked like himself lately. He's looked just. I think he had before tonight. I think he had no points and was like -6, -7 across the last 3 games prior to this one. So I really do think that this Stars team is built for a deep cup run, and I think that they handle business tonight. I think they're well on their way to winning this Stanley Cup. So
yeah,
I'm gonna stick with Dallas. I think.
yeah. I'm with you. So I'm trying to find the stat line here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So what I saw today was the Avalanche's stats through the first 4 games, not including Game 5, through the first 4 games. It might be NHL and ESPN. So Cale Makar, if I remember correctly, had no points through these 4 games. Nathan McKinnon, 1 assist. Mikko Rantanen, 1 goal. So those players being absolute complete ghosts is not going to win you a championship, in my opinion. It's just simply not. So I think that if Colorado wants to win this series, they're going to need guys that can score. And currently in Game 5, I believe the scores are, let me look real quick, Cale Makar and Arturi Lehkonen. So at least their guys are getting on the board now, but through the first 4 games, it has not been great. And as well as that, too, this team has never had a lead in the series. Besides winning in overtime in Game 1, this team has never had a lead in this series. So that is something that's very significant there to what is happening with the Colorado Avalanche, with this team overall. So, again, I think Dallas wins this. I think they take it in 5 or 6. I can't see Colorado coming back from down 3-1. But then again, if there was a team that I guess could, it probably could be the Avalanche. They're probably the most dangerous team in the NHL playing from behind. So, obviously, it's something you want to keep in mind. So, that'll do it for the playoffs. Playoff talk next episode will be round 3. So we'll be previewing the 3rd round of the playoffs. I don't know how many games will be in, but I think the last possible game is Monday. So definitely next episode will be our round 3 preview. But regardless, playoffs have been good so far. One last thing. If you guys could give a Conn Smythe winner of the playoffs this year, who are you guys taking?
Oof, that's tough. Carter, go ahead, because honestly, I'm not too good with stats right now.
100%. Okay, like it's gonna come down to who ends up winning the cup.
Yeah. How about Wyatt Johnston?
Wyatt Johnson, he's been
There you
really
go.
good.
That's my pick. That's my pick.
Yeah. If Dallas ends up making it, I think you gotta look at Wyatt Johnson, as being one of the guys, as well as Jake Ottinger. I think you gotta look at the goaltending as well. He's put up this entire series, other than their game loss, he's put up over a 900 in every game. In the playoffs, outside of the first 2 games of the series, he's put up over a 900 in every game, which is exactly what you need out of your star goaltender. So I think you got to go Ottinger if you're Dallas. Avalanche, I think it's hard to really say because before all of the Nichushkin stuff, I think that he was probably their most underrated player. And it kind of sucks for him. So I think he would have been a good pick. But obviously, it's going to come down to who wins the cup for the Conn Smythe. It's hard to really say without knowing.
Honestly, yeah. You guys are saying a lot of guys from like Dallas and stuff. I would have to say I think you got to put Shesterkin in that conversation. You got to put Swayman. I think you got to put Leon Draisaitl in there.
You got to put McDavid in there too. 18 points.
Here's the thing with McDavid. McDavid's kind of been a merchant. He has 2 goals, and I think 11 of his 16 points were on the power play. So that's kind of why I'm not really like, McDavid. I think
it still doesn't matter. Points are points. The voters don't really.
You got a point, but at the same time, I mean, there's a chance that McDavid could win it just because he's McDavid.
Besser's another one.
Besser's been freaking unreal. Someone like Matthew Tkachuk, possibly. There's.
I feel like there's a good chance we could see a goaltender winning it this year.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of goalies who have been spectacular through this playoff run. All right, so that'll do it for the playoffs. We're actually going to say goodbye to Jack because it's almost 9 o'clock. So Jack has to go somewhere. So adios, Jack, and Ian Carter. Yep, see
Take
ya.
care, Jack.
All right, so transitioning on here into the World Championship. Now, usually we don't really give a shit about the World Championship because no NHLers really go to it. It's a lot of guys that are ex-NHLers or guys just from, that certain area. But there have been, obviously, with the Olympics going on, a lot of guys have gone over. Teams that have missed the playoffs, guys that, want to get on that Olympic team. So we'll start off with the overall standings, if I can even freaking find them. Where are they at? Here they are. So currently in Group A, Switzerland has the lead with 11 points. They've played terrific, if I'm looking at this correctly. Then you got Czechia. Czechia has played well. Then you have Canada at 3, Finland at 4, Norway at 5, Denmark at 6, Austria at 7, and Great Britain at 8th. When you look at Group B, you got Sweden at number 1, have played very well. Slovakia at 2, Latvia at 3, Germany at 4, the United States at 5, France at 6, Kazakhstan at 7, and then Poland at 8. So one thing that's interesting here that's different from the World Juniors is we have a lot more teams that are in it. I think the World Juniors is like 8 teams?
5 and
10,
5.
5 teams? Yeah,
it's
so
5
10,
and 5.
so 10 teams total. But in this entire pool, we've seen 16 countries. So that's the cooler part about the World Championship. There's a lot more teams that are involved when you're looking in terms of that. So, Carter, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have the player stats pulled up? If not, I can read those too.
I think I can get it here. Yeah, I got player stats.
Yeah, so there have been plenty of guys that have come over from the NHL on teams that I've missed that have played really well. So, if you want to elaborate more on that.
Yeah. So obviously Switzerland has they've been like led by obviously Roman Josi and Nico Hischier. Hischier's got a goal a game. Josi's putting up 2 points per game. Both guys have just been absolute unreal for them there. Obviously Connor Bedard, he's got 5 goals through 3 games. He's going to be the best player in the world real soon. And it's nice that he's already we saw at World Juniors. He dominated on that world stage, and he's going to dominate on this one too. As well, a kind of like one that probably not a lot of people expect. Yashin Elias.
Yeah.
Never heard of this guy in my entire life, but
I said, who the hell is that? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He has 7 points through 4 games. So I feel like he plays well in this tournament. You might be seeing some teams giving him a call. So that's kind of highlighting the top guys here. There you can take a look, and there's a lot of guys that you might not have ever heard of, and they're just dominating this tournament.
Former NHLers too. Like I saw Dominic Cahoon. I'm like, what the hell? Where have you been my whole life? Like Dominic Cahoon was here. I'm trying to think of other guys. Sven Andrighetto is there as well, another former NHLer. There's even some guys here too that are like rookies and prospects. Like it's funny to me that Pierre-Luc Dubois has more points in less games in the World Championship than he did in the NHL playoffs. That's just funny to me. He has 4 points. I think he had 1 point when playing the Oilers. So
there's a lot of guys who are averaging a point per game in this tournament right now. So I think this is a great way to kind of get your name out there for these international tournaments. It's probably a great way for some of these international guys who probably don't get the same recognition because kind of once you're out of like that draft area, this isn't like kind of the MLB or like soccer or anything like that to where you're not 18 anymore. No one's going to really scout you. Like I feel like for some of these guys, if they're young enough and they can play good against some of these top guys kind of internationally, maybe they get a PTO chance in the NHL. Maybe they get a preseason chance, or maybe they do end up making an NHL entrance. So this is a great look for this tournament, especially having a lot of guys coming over. This just really shows that when the NHL does finally go back to the Olympics, we're going to have a lot of guys trying to put their name into that ballot there and make it.
Yeah, so when you look in terms of the goalies, I want to go into that as well. Harry Sateri, I think I'm saying that right, is the leading guy for Finland. He's played 2 games, has a point, or as a point 9.5 something. And he actually was in the NHL for a couple of years, played for Florida, Detroit, and Arizona. Never got off the ground, but as a guy that's playing well and trying to make a name for himself when you're looking at the Olympics. Alex Lyon as well. Lyon's played well. He's actually out for the rest of the tournament, though. He actually had an injury. Philip Gustafson's here as well. Lucas Dostals looked good for Czechia. Philip Grubauer for Germany. Other guys, too. Elvis Merzlikins for Latvia. Jordan Binnington as well for Canada. And the rest of the guys are kind of just guys that aren't really from the NHL. So, again, it's cool to see that there's some NHLers playing in this tournament, and that's what makes it more watchable. Like, you see like Alex Lyon, or like you see a favorite player on your team that's playing. I think that makes the games more watchable, because not to say that nobody gave a shit about it, but I don't think really people really cared that much last year about the World Championship. But now that there's players from the NHL that are playing, I think more people are paying attention to it. So finally, before we transition to our next topic, who would you say is going to win this championship overall?
Who's gonna win it?
Who do you think is going to win the World Championship? I have a feeling I know who you're going to go with, but
I mean, like, I'm gonna, of course, I'm gonna say Canada. Obviously, I think we have the most depth, but I will say that game against Austria did scare me. That was a scary game for Canada. We were up 6-1, looking like we were dominating, blew that lead, in classic Canadian sports fashion. We're really good. We're really good at blowing big leads. But it's okay. We ended up winning that one in overtime. But that was a valuable point that we missed out on too. So, I don't know. I think if I were to give top two, out of each, I think I gotta go Canada, and then I'd go the Swiss, because obviously highlighted by the two guys that I mentioned, and they just look absolutely unreal. Looking at Group B, I think you got to go Sweden, and then you got to go Slovakia. But Nordic's favorite, Latvia, not too far behind in that category there. So definitely looks like Latvia will be making the elimination stage of this tournament. I hope, but I don't. Sadly, I don't see them winning this tournament.
I mean, hey, we'll see. I gotta go with the Swiss. I'm looking at their roster right now. They have one hell of a team: Nico Hischier, Nino Niederreiter, Philip Kurashev, Kevin Fiala. On the defense, you got Roman Josi, Jonas Siegenthaler. So I don't know if they win it, but I definitely think they'll be top two, along with Canada. But I'm not ruling out Czechia either, even though we do have some beef. But put that aside, Czechia, if you want to agree with me. But I think you got to go with Switzerland and Canada currently. As it goes for Group B, I think you go with Sweden. Sweden's had a really good roster. I don't know. I might go with Slovakia, honestly. Slovakia has a decent team, too. Juraj Slavkovsky's looked good. There's other guys in this roster, too, that have looked notable as well. Like, for example, Marty Pospisil. I'm probably saying it wrong. But he's a guy from Calgary who's looked good in this tournament, too. Other guys as well, like just, the team, Martin Fehervari, like the team has some solid players. So I'm not ruling out Slovakia either, honestly. So yeah, I like the World Tournament overall. So transitioning now to our next topic, we're going back to the NHL. We're going to do something where we predict coaches. So there are plenty of teams right now in the National Hockey League that actually don't have a coach. Currently, I believe it is 6 teams. So we're going to go through each of those teams and predict who we think is going to be the head coach of that roster. So we're going to start off with the Los Angeles Kings. Now, the Kings currently have Jonas Hiller named as the interim head coach. They are interviewing other coaches to see who's going to take on the new job. So you can either say that Hiller is going to be the coach, or you think someone else. But Carter, who do you think is going to be the new coach of the LA Kings?
I'll be honest. Naming coaches is probably the hardest thing for me to do, especially because there's no real, there's not a thing that, really shows, anything on coaches. I'll let you go, and let me quickly see if I can find anything. Just give me a second.
Okay. So I think that there's a chance to go back to Jonas Hiller. There are guys on the market, too, like maybe Dan Blisma, somebody along those lines. I don't really know. I feel like they go with somebody like I feel like they might go with Hiller and make him the permanent one. I don't know. Maybe they promote from within. Maybe they name DJ Smith. Who knows? But I kind of think it's going to be Jonas Hiller, in my opinion. Carter, if you want me to, I can list some coaches. If you'd like.
I got a list in front of me.
Okay. So I think I'm going to go with Jonas Hiller. I know there's probably other guys that I'm not even thinking about, but I'm going to go with Jonas Hiller as the Kings coach. What do you think, Carter?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I don't really know. It's hard for me to really name a structure, but I got some guys. You could see a guy like Dave Haxtell, someone who's familiar with that Pacific Division. Although you could kind of say that not a lot of guys like them in Seattle, so you might not see his name out too much. Jay Woodcroft would be a bad one. I think he was still good with Edmonton kind of in his tenure, just kind of you had to make a move with him early on in the year because things weren't going well, and he is very familiar with that Pacific Division. So I'll go with Jay Woodcroft.
Ooh, okay.
I think he's a proven guy. He's been to the playoffs. He's made somewhat of playoff runs here and there. But ultimately it could be he was just carried by McDavid and Draisaitl. So I think you want to give him a chance, a guy who knows that division. I think Jay Woodcroft would kind of be the guy for that team there.
Okay, yeah, I don't hate that. I kind of agree with that, actually. I think that Woodcroft would be a good fit for the LA Kings, honestly. So we'll move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs obviously fired Sheldon Keefe. Now they're looking for a brand new head coach. I'm going to say mine before you go to yours. I think they go with someone like Todd McClellan. I don't think they're going to get Berube. I don't know if they're going to get Woodcroft. I feel like they're going to go with someone like Todd McClellan. In my opinion, I feel like that would be a better move than Berube, to be honest with you. But, you might disagree with me. Carter, who do you think will be the coach of the Maple Leafs?
So I do like that, that Todd McClellan.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that is a great one. That'd be a good one. I would go him. I think he would be a good one. Could go him. Claude Julien would be a good. Yeah, you know what? I really like that pick. I'd say Todd McClellan too.
Okay. Awesome.
I
Cool.
I like that too. I think he's enough of, I feel like, would be a hard-nosed coach that he would be kind of like Sheldon Keefe in a sense. But I think, that's a hell of a pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. Moving on to the New Jersey Devils. The Devils fired Lindy Ruff. Why is my throat being like that? They brought in Travis Green as the interim coach. Oh my God. Jesus. So, Carter, who do you think is going to be the head coach of the Devils? I'm going to go get some water. I don't know what's going on with my throat right
now. Looking at the head coach kind of for the Devils, you could be looking at a guy here like David Quinn. I think that he'd be a great fit. Was recently with the New York Rangers. I think he'd be great. Like I said, kind of same thing with Haxtell or Woodcroft. He knows that division. So I think David Quinn would be a great kind of fit there in that New Jersey locker room. I think that most of their guys are developed too, so I don't think development is going to be a huge thing for the New Jersey Devils outside of Luke Hughes. So other than that, I really think that he'd be a great fit for them there.
So we do have an in-game update here on Dallas versus Colorado. Casey Middlestat has scored for the Avalanche. That's the first lead that Colorado has had the entire series, and now they take a 3-2 lead with 18:39 left in the third. So a little in-game update there for the NordCast. But if I'm going with a Devils coach, I gotta go with Craig Berube. Berube makes the most sense to me. I think that he has the experience to coach a team like that. And I think as well as that too, I think what's going to make an impact on this is it's close to home for him. He lives in the Philadelphia area, not that far from me. So I think it would make a lot of sense for him to go to somewhere that's local to him. So I think that honestly, if the Devils went out and got Craig Berube, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Another guy that I think too could be a good name is Sheldon Keefe. potentially. Sheldon Keefe's a guy I think is very possible as well, but obviously when you're looking at that team right now, I think Berube is the most realistic for me. San Jose Sharks will go to next. So the Sharks the Sharks are an interesting team because they're tanking. They're like rebuilding right now. So I don't think you go with like a big name coach. I feel like you would go with someone maybe like an assistant coach who is good for the young guys. I think there's a good chance they go with someone like Dan Blisma if Seattle doesn't go out and get them. If they go out and hire someone like him, someone who's young, good for that. I'm gonna look up the San Jose Barracuda head coach. Maybe he's a guy that could be too. Potentially as well, Ryan Warsofsky was a name that was brought up. I think as well as that too, Jeff Blashill was brought up as well. So John McCarthy is the coach of the Barracuda. So I'm actually gonna go with Ryan Warsofsky. Not a whole lot known about him, but he's a Calder Cup champion. And I think that when you're looking in terms of the Sharks, they're a young team. They got a lot of young players on their roster, especially after they get Celebrini, whoever else they get. So chances are, I think they go with Ryan Warsofsky for the head coaching job. But Carter, what do you think?
Yeah, I do like that. I think you want to, if you're a rebuilding team, you want a guy who already knows that San Jose Sharks culture. So being able to get your assistant coach and giving him a shot is not bad, but you also don't want to give it to an assistant and have him kind of fail, because that could end up messing up your culture too. If in that first year he doesn't develop these guys right, that could take a shot at your culture as well. So I don't know. I think that he would be a great fit. I think he'd be give him a chance. But I think it's scary. I think I don't know any of these coaches who's the best at development, but I think for a rebuilding team, you got to go with him. You got to go with whoever's going to be the best at developing.
Yeah. So, did you say someone?
I mean, I said Warsofsky. Yeah, like I think higher within, he knows the culture. But again, it's kind of scary to try and make that step into that first year head coach. Some guys can do it really well, some guys can't. So
yeah,
it's a little scary.
Especially for a team that's like in that rebuilding stage too. So we'll see who they pick. Honestly, we'll find out. Winnipeg Jets. We'll go to your team now. So the Winnipeg Jets, obviously Rick Bowness retired, so they obviously need a brand new head coach. There's a lot going on with the Jets right now. We'll get into that in a little bit with the news and rumors. But Carter, since you're a Jets fan, who's your number one guy you want as the coach for the Winnipeg Jets?
Berube.
Oh, okay.
He is already, I'm pretty sure he has already had a flight here or something. He's had something to do with the Winnipeg Jets because I've seen stuff about that already. So he's already been in talks with us, but I feel like he's also probably been in talks with a lot of teams already. So we'll have to see what goes on with that. But he would be my number one target.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would like Berube as well. Since I already went with someone like Craig Berube, I can't pick him. I've said in episodes before, I've said in videos before that I like Scott Arniel, the assistant for Winnipeg currently. I'm gonna say he gets the job, unless if I'm blanking on someone else who's available for a coaching role. I think that honestly you gotta go with someone like Scott Arniel. I think he's been in this situation before. He's coached this team when Rick Bowness has been out. So I think definitely he'll get an interview, and I think he has a good chance at getting the job as well. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not going with Sheldon Keefe. I think for the team that's trying to get out of the first round, I think the best idea is to not hire someone who has not been out of the first round except for one time. So I think you gotta avoid Sheldon Keefe. I think they'll interview him. I think they'll look into it, but I don't think that they'll go down that road overall. And finally, we got the final team here. If I have all of them, the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken fired Dave Haxtell as from their head coaching position. That was actually their only coach. So they're looking to hire their second coach in franchise history. I'm going to go first. I'm going to say the guy that I just said, Sheldon Keefe. I think Keefe, as a young coach, is a guy that has a good playing style. And for a team that is young and kind of fun, honestly, a team that's young and fun, I think a guy like Sheldon Keefe makes the most sense for the Seattle Kraken. And as well as that, too, they're a team that doesn't have, like, the heavy Toronto media that, a lot of other Canadian teams have. The Kraken are relatively close to Canada, but their media is not as big as, teams like Toronto and Montreal and, the teams in Canada like that. So I think Keefe goes to a team like Seattle, and that makes the most sense. So, Carter, what do you think?
I was going to say Sheldon Keefe as well.
Okay,
I think
awesome.
how he's able to play the game, I think, is definitely one thing. How he coaches it is really good too. I really like how he coaches. I think he was just kind of screwed in Toronto with no depth. They just had no depth.
I agree. We've said that in podcasts before too. Like, they just have no depth scoring. Seattle's a team that has depth. They're one of the deepest teams in the NHL. I know that this past offseason they lost a lot of depth, but I think honestly, still there's a chance that I feel like Keefe is the perfect fit for Seattle. Just the perfect fit for me. So I gotta go with Sheldon Keefe. You have anything else?
Nope.
All right, cool. So that's your prediction. We got another update here mid-game. Cale Makar has made it 4-2 in favor of Colorado. So unless if Dallas scores 2 here in the next 15 minutes, it appears we're going to see a game 6. And one thing that I noticed before we get into the news and stuff, and then we'll go into our final topic. One thing I've noticed is it's really hard to close out game 4s of a series. It's become way harder. I think every team now that is up like 3-1 or 3-2 has really struggled to close in that fourth game. So, yeah, something to keep in mind there. So moving into news, I want to start off with some Philadelphia Flyers related stuff. Ivan Fedotov has been suspended 3 years from international play. The CSKA Moscow team has been hit with a 2-year transfer ban. So Fedotov's banned from playing in the IIHF for 3 years due to, I think, a contract breach or violating a contract. So that's interesting there. I don't really know what that has to do with anything. Brendan Shanahan staying the president of the Maple Leafs. That's been something that has happened as well. Whether you agree with that or not, I can't see how you can justify keeping him in a job, but I guess it's because Keith Pelly's been here for like 3 weeks, so, whatever. Valery Nichushkin was placed in assistance program. He's been suspended for 6 months. There's been a lot of stuff going on in regards to Nichushkin recently and stuff that happened last year. So I do hope that Nichushkin does recover from this overall because things like that are very hard to overcome. David Riddick was signed to a 1-by-1 contract today. Big save, Dave. Not sure if it's the right move, but we'll see who they bring in as their backup or as their starter goaltender. Because if it's Riddick, I might as well just rebuild. Anywho, moving into other news that I want to talk about. It looks like the Nashville Predators have shown interest in Mitch Marner. What are you saying? 4-3? 4-3 Dallas. We got an update. 4-3 Dallas. Just a little update there in between. The Nashville Predators have shown interest in Mitch Marner. That's something interesting there. You see the Predators. They have guys like Saros. They have plenty of depth and prospects. And there's a good chance that we could see Mitch Marner in Nashville. And I wouldn't hate that. I would like to see Marner with the Predators. And it makes the most sense for the Leafs, too, because you can get some depth from that. You can get some young players. And
acquire a goaltender.
You can get a guy like Jose Saros. So that factors in there as something that I think the Predators should look into for sure. And then finally, moving into some Winnipeg Jets news. We'll start off with this. Brendan Dillon. It looks like he's going to be a free agent heading into the 2024 offseason. As well as that, too, I'm going to go to Carter here. That's why I'm saying this stuff. As well as that, too, it looks like Nikolai Ehlers has been made available for trade for the Winnipeg Jets. So, going to go to Carter, Mr. Jets fan here. What are your thoughts on Brendan Dillon walking?
Don't give a fuck.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I love Brendan Dillon. He has a great physical side to our back end. He's not Josh Morrissey. He's not Josh Morrissey. He's not Neil Pionk. I don't care.
You think it's time for a change?
I don't want it to be. But, I mean, ultimately, I don't know. We got guys who can fill that role. I just don't want it to be Logan Stanley. But I feel like if we let Dillon walk, it's going to be him. So maybe I do care. Maybe I do. But
yeah. What about the Ehlers situation?
I said it last episode. I said he was probably going to be made available for trade. I said I'd give him up for Neil or for Marner, I'd give him up for Marner, and he's available. Marner's available. Let's Winnipeg. Let's make something happen. Let's get Mitch Marner
Brad,
in a Jets uniform.
Ooh.
Let's get him in a Jets uniform. I'd love to see it.
Get it for just Ehlers. You might have to give up a lot more, but I mean,
well no shit. But I'm saying Ehlers would help their depth, and I think they need some speed kind of on that roster. And Nikolai Ehlers, he's one of the faster players in the National Hockey League, and he's got a lethal shot too. You pair him with Austin Matthews, that's a nice little duo right there.
I agree with you. Mm-hmm. All right,
but
so
I will have to say it's kind of sad because that would mean that this now hurts.
Oh my God!
I bought it 2 years ago, and I'm heartbroken, but it's okay.
Well, unfortunate. Well, he hasn't left yet. That being said, we are going to transition into our last topic. So we're starting a new series today where we're going to do a redraft of an NHL draft every single episode. And we're starting today with the 2020 draft. We'll be right back. So today we are starting a brand new series. Each week of the NordCast, we are going to be doing a redraft of a certain NHL draft. Today we're starting with 2020 and going backwards. So this is going to be posted on the YouTube end of things, obviously on the main podcast as well. So we have it sorted a certain way here where you can see picks 1 to 15. For the video listeners, you can see that we have the original pick and we have the who made the pick on the right side. And for the audio listeners, you can just listen to what we say. So first overall, I'm starting off here. First overall, going to the New York Rangers. The original pick was Alexis Lafreniere. Think you got to go with Tim Stützle. Tim Stützle was 3rd overall in this draft previously. But I think when you're looking in terms of overall scores and all that, Stützle leads the entire draft class in goals. I think you just 100%, you got to go with someone like Stützle at 1st overall in this draft. So I'll go to Carter now, who's joined with me. And he's going to do pick number 2. So Carter, who are you taking at 2nd overall to the LA Kings?
All right. Well, the original pick was Quentin Byfield. I'm not going to stick with that. And I think that the LA Kings are going to select Lucas Raymond with this pick here.
I like that. Lucas Raymond, I think, had an incredible second half of the season. He played spectacular. I think he actually is 2nd in scoring overall when it comes to points throughout the entire draft class. So I think you got to go with Raymond at 2nd overall. 3rd overall, I'm going with another forward here. The original pick was Tim Stützle. Obviously, I can't pick him. I'm going with Seth Jarvis, rising up 10 spots in this draft. Jarvis has been insanely valuable to the Carolina Hurricanes. I think you would be stupid not to go with him at 3rd overall. If you want to argue someone like Jake Sanderson, I could get behind that. But I think you got to go with someone like Seth Jarvis, who is ridiculously valuable at 3rd overall. And imagine if Ottawa got Jarvis. Just imagine. We're going to do a lot of these redrafts over the next couple of years. You're going to see Ottawa in here a lot. And you're going to be like, man, imagine if they got Jarvis and they got someone like Sider. Man, imagine if they got players like that. So you're going to see a lot of teams like that when we do this over the course of the next couple of years. Or a couple of weeks. Not years. Years in. Anywho, Carter, what is your 4th overall pick in this draft? Jesus.
All right. Well, I already took the guy from this position. Detroit Red Wings selected Lucas Raymond. Here they're going to take the original number 1 overall pick, Alexis Lafreniere. He's still did not have the start that I think a lot of people were expecting, but I still do think that he is he's still going to be elite. He's still going to be one of the best players in the league.
Awesome. So honestly, I don't ever think Lafreniere will live up to the hype that he got when he first got into the NHL, but he's definitely progressed better, and his development's been slower, but he's still become a solid NHLer at the age that he is. He has 148 points through 298 games. I think that, especially this season, we've seen him get a lot better in terms of just overall talent and him improving. So I honestly think that you got to go with Lafreniere at 4th overall. 5th overall, I think, doesn't change. I think I'm going to go with Jake Sanderson in 5 years still. I think Sanderson is the best defenseman from this draft class. I think he's been the most valuable overall to the Ottawa Senators. I think I think you got to go with him here at this fifth overall pick. He's been a great defensive and offensive defenseman. I think he's been the backbone of the Ottawa Senators defense recently, and he is the future. So I think you got to go with someone like Sanderson at that fifth overall pick. So Carter, who are you taking sixth overall?
Sixth overall, Anaheim Ducks. They originally selected our boy Jamie Drysdale. I think they're gonna go defense here again. I would have them selecting Brock Faber
Ooh,
with this pick
bad,
here. I think
bad.
defense is what they need, and I think he's already solidified himself as one of the better defensemen in the National Hockey League.
I love that pick. You could argue Brock Faber goes five. You could argue Brock Faber goes fifth overall in this draft.
You could
Um,
argue that he's the D1 in this draft, but
yeah. Faber has only played one season though, but it was a great season. He was incredibly valuable to the Minnesota Wild's defense. I think if Anaheim got him, we could be talking a different situation right now instead of getting a guy like Drysdale. So I like Brock Faber there at that sixth overall pick. I like that a lot. Seventh overall here is the Devils. They originally selected Alexander Holtz. What's funny is that I'm actually going to go with someone here who, coincidentally enough, got selected by the Devils, but later on in the draft. I'm going to go Mercer here at sixth. I think Mercer had a down season, or at seven. I think Mercer had a down season with the Devils this past year, but I still think he can be that solid, legitimate top six forward for this Devils team. I think you got to go with him at seventh here. I like Mercer a lot, and I think it makes the most sense and he's one of the better offensive players overall in this draft when you're looking in terms of um the New Jersey Devils. So yeah, Dawson Mercer at seven. Carter, you got eighth. Who you taking?
well, with the number eighth pick, I think that this would be a dynamic duo for the Buffalo Sabres of Tage Thompson and Quinton Byfield.
Ooh,
I think getting Quinton Byfield at the eighth overall pick is a steal um, for the Buffalo Sabres. We do have a small sample size of him. But I feel like kind of the struggles early on in his career were kind of a question mark, but I think he's kind of solidified those away, and he's proved to be a very good two way player. So I think getting him on this Buffalo team would be very nice.
yeah. So I'm with you there. I think that honestly, when you're looking in terms of like Byfield, when he started in the NHL, he had some struggles. He struggled to get into the lineup. He struggled to score. This was the first year, though, where we saw him really improve and play well. So I think Byfield, if we do this again next year, I think he will rise up this ranking even more. But this is the first year we've seen Byfield play at that legitimate NHL level. So I think he's definitely warranted at being at eighth. But I think that if we do this again, I think Byfield would 100% be higher, in my opinion. Ninth overall to the Minnesota Wild. I guess I'm up next here. I think I'm gonna go with someone like, hmm, I don't know. There's a lot of good options here that are on the board for me to pick. I'm gonna go with, um, I'm between JJ Paterka and Anton Lindell. I think I'm going to go Anton Lindell. I think Lindell has had, I think, a very underrated career. I think a lot of people look at him and say he's a bust. He hasn't been that great, but in recent years, he's been way better. Good playoff player. Has scored some goals in the playoffs for Florida. I think that offensively the numbers aren't really there, but defensively his numbers are a lot better, and I think that Lindell is warranted for being a top 10 selection there. So I'm taking Lindell over Marco Rossi. Not sure what you think of that, but 10th overall to the Jets. This wasn't planned at all, but Carter, you have your Jets. Who are you taking here? Carter, your mic is
Sorry. You kind of took my guy there. I was gonna go on Lundell. But that is okay. I think with this pick, I'm gonna stick with Cole Perfetti. I think he just hasn't really been given a fair shot to kind of prove himself. So yeah, I think they should stick with Cole Perfetti here.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think Perfetti has definitely gotten better as the years have gone on. There's been a lot of players in this draft who have kind of had stalled development, like players who have kind of taken a while to get to that point. And you could argue it's COVID. You could argue just some players have struggled. So I think Perfetti at 10th is overall a good pick. 11th overall to the Predators. I'm going to go with. I'm looking at my board here. Almost everyone's taken off. I'm gonna go with John Jason Paterka. I think Paterka has been a solid. He was a good late round pick, for the Buffalo Sabres originally, but going to Nashville here at 11th, I think makes sense. He's been actually very solid at the NHL level, so I think I'm gonna go with Paterka here at 11th overall. I think he's been very impressive and definitely warranted of being a top 15 pick here in a redraft. So I think I got Paterka there at 11. So 12th overall to the Florida Panthers. Carter, who are you taking?
This pick here, I feel like there's a lot of guys that Anton Lundell is a great pick there for Florida there, but obviously he's already been taken in this draft. I think I'm gonna go with a defenseman here. So I'm gonna take Jamie Drysdale with this pick here. Injury struggles, but I think you take those injuries away. He's one of the better offensive defensemen in this draft.
Yeah, he's a very effective guy. Again, as you said, he's had injuries in his career that have really stalled his development a little bit, but I think Drysdale can still be that legitimate defenseman with the Philadelphia Flyers. Still weird to think that he's a Flyer, but Drysdale, I'd like to see it. I would like to see. I would honestly be okay with him being on Florida. I think Florida would have a really stacked defense with a guy like Jamie Drysdale on the team there. 13th overall is me again. We got the Carolina Hurricanes. They originally took Seth Jarvis. I'm gonna go with Jack Quinn here. I think Quinn has not played a ton in the NHL, but I think that Quinn still is a good pick here at 13th overall. I think he's still warranted of a top 10 of a top 15 selection here. He has 58 points in 104 games played. Not bad numbers there, but I think Quinn, give him a little bit more time, and I think he can fully develop into the player that we imagine him to be. So yeah, I'm taking Quinn at 13. And with your final pick, Carter, at 14th overall, who are you taking?
Well, he's fallen. He's gonna fall a little bit here. He's gonna have to wait a little bit to hear his time called on draft night. But um, I think that when you look at the Oilers, what they've struggled with lately, it has come down to goaltending.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And I think that Yaroslav Askarov would fit in nicely with the Edmonton Oilers. I think that that's what they need. Dylan Holloway was not a bad pick, but if you can get a stud goaltender, just imagine how much deeper this cup run could be and would be with a star goaltender rather than a rule.
Yeah, I agree. So the time we're recording, when we're recording this video, the Oilers are in the second round against Vancouver. They just started Calvin Pickard in game 4. So obviously Pickard won them the game, but that's not a reliable goaltending option there when you're looking in terms of that. Askarov, however, he has not played a lot of games. He's played 2 games in the national or 3 games in the National Hockey League. So he hasn't played a whole lot, and I think a lot of that is because of Hussein Saros. I think Saros, there hasn't been a lot of time for Askarov to play, so he's been down with the Milwaukee Admirals. Again, I think the Oilers make a lot of sense here. I think the Oilers need a goalie. I think Askarov could be a great goalie for them, and I think that's overall a pretty solid pick. So with the final pick here in the 2020 mock draft, I'm looking at my board here, looking at players that I have listed. I'm trying to see if there's any guys that have kind of gone past us that we could bring up here that aren't that big of names. I think I'm gonna go a little bit off the board here. I'm gonna go with Tyson Forster at 15th overall. You could argue that's a little bit too high, but I like Tyson Forster a lot. He had a really good rookie season this past year with the Flyers, 40 points in 85 games played. I think that gives us a little bit of a sneak peek of what Tyson Forster can really be. And I think that he can be an incredible player with the Philadelphia Flyers. And imagine if they got him at 15th overall, Toronto. Imagine what their depth would be like if they got someone like Tyson Forster. Now, obviously, they selected Rodon Amirov. He obviously passed away. Rest in peace. But I'm taking Forster there at 15th overall. So that is our 2020 redraft here. We'd like to thank you all for watching. We've gotten posted a lot of videos like this on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching the YouTube channel and you don't know about the NordCast, we are a podcast that runs on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the good stuff. And obviously we post for episodes on YouTube here too. So if you're interested and you want to watch our episodes, be sure to check that out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys next one. So that'll do it for episode number 55 of the NordCast. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed and you are listening, be sure to give us a good review, tell your friends, and all that good stuff. If you're watching on the YouTube end of things, be sure to like, subscribe down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you want to follow the NordCast Instagram, be sure to follow at NordCast_. If you want to follow the TikTok, be sure to follow at NordCast. And yeah, we're going to get back to playoff hockey here and enjoy some of that. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Adios.